Once upon a time, there was a little girl who lived in a village near the forest. Whenever she went out, the little girl wore a Red Riding cloak, so everyone in the village called her Little Red Riding Hood. One morning, Little Red Riding Hood asked her mother if she could go to visit her grandmother, as it had been a while since they had seen each other.
That's a good idea.
So they packed a nice basket for Little Red Riding Hood to take to her grandmother. When the basket was ready, the little girl said goodbye.
Remember, go straight to grandmother's house. Don't dawdle along the way and don't talk to strangers. The woods are dangerous.
Don't worry, Mommy. I will be careful.
Little Red Riding Hood noticed some lovely flowers along the way, and while she stopped to pick them up, she didn't even notice the dark shadow coming out of the forest behind her. Suddenly, the wolf appeared beside her.
What are you doing out here, little girl?
I'm on my way to see my grandmother, who lives through the forest.
Then she realized how late she was and quickly excused herself, rushing down the path to her grandma's house. The wolf, in the meantime, took a shortcut. The wolf, a little out of breath, arrived at Grandma's and knocked lightly at the door.
Oh, thank goodness. Come in, come in.
The wolf let himself in. Poor Granny did not have time to say anything else before the wolf gobbled her up. The wolf let out a satisfied burp and then poked through Granny's wardrobe to find a nightgown that he liked. A few minutes later, Little Red Riding Hood knocked on the door. The wolf jumped into bed and pulled the covers over his nose.
Who is it?
It's me, Little Red Riding Hood.
Oh, how lovely. Do come in, my dear.
When Little Red Riding Hood entered the little cottage, she could scarcely recognize her grandmother.
Grandmother, your voice sounds so odd. Is something the matter?
Oh, I just have a touch of a cold.
But grandmother, what big ears you have?
It's better to hear you, my dear.
But grandmother, what big eyes you have?
The better to see you, my dear.
But grandmother, what big teeth you have?
The better to eat you, my dear.
Almost too late, Little Red Riding Hood realized that the person in the bed was not her grandmother. She ran across the room and through the door shouting.
Help, wolf.
A woodsman who was chopping logs nearby heard her cry and ran towards the cottage as fast as he could. He grabbed the wolf and made him spit out the poor grandmother.
Oh, Grandma, I was so scared.
There, child. You've learned an important lesson. Thank goodness the kind woodman would hear you cry.
The woodsman knocked out the wolf and carried him deep into the forest, where he wouldn't bother anyone any longer. Little Red Riding Hood and her grandmother had a nice laugh and a long chat.